Okay, so basically, what I figured out was the different dimensionality of thinking is the first dimension's singularity. Consciousness exists on a singularity in the first dimension, which is why like cells and stuff, well, they kind of just like polypeptide or whatever. Everything just knows how to like organize itself somehow because it's intrinsic, I guess. I don't know. The attractive force of the universe, or I don't know, something. And then I guess two-dimensional consciousness is probably like I forgot what I wrote. Well, I wrote something down in my bathroom mirror that okay, I'll return to it later, because basically it doesn't matter. You don't even have to like know what it is, because the universe is self-referential, and you can use any method to work backwards to deduce it. So like if you know well, mathematics basically teaches you this. So wait, yeah, I guess I could just prove my theories using mathematics, but I don't see why. Not many people are going to believe it that way. Yeah, it's just not the most conducive right now. I mean, at some point, yeah, I'll go learn it and do it that way, because I know how to like encode it or basically explain it in any methodology. It's just I don't know. No one believes me. Anyways, so whatever. Third dimensional thinking is like you exist in the third dimensional realm, but you're kind of basically an NPC. Because you have no inner monologue. You just kind of do stuff. I don't know. I guess fourth dimensional thinking is your mind's eye, meaning you have an internal monologue, and it's kind of like screwing you over because you can envision things in your mind. Like people, it was like, I guess what early people thought was ADHD. Yeah, but then like, you know, the majority of humanity eventually got inner monologue, so they're like, wait, that's actually not ADHD. We're all like that, kind of. And then, okay, so now there's fifth dimensional thinking, which our language, we need something to explain our inner monologue. We need to explore our subconscious and basically explain it, so we know our motivations, so we can understand each other. Because like sometimes when you ask someone a question, they're like, oh, I don't know why I did that. It's like, really, bro? Really? You don't? Like, how do you not know your own motivations? You have to explore yourself, learn why you do the things you do, and then once you do that, you can see why you did everything you did leading up to that point. And then once you see that, you can basically deduce from there, like, wait, if I know everything I did, or if I did everything, if my subconscious basically controls me, or how do I have free will, really? Well, the answer is you don't, but you do at the same time, paradoxically, because that's fifth dimensional thinking. So essentially what the problem is the fifth dimensional thinking fails to account for people who think in it to use language. So they have to condense higher dimensional concepts down into lower dimensional explanations unwittingly, because they're using an inferior language. So people with fifth dimensional thinking basically are unwittingly orcs from Warhammer 40k or whatever. Like I guess that's the best way I can explain them. They're kind of like unwittingly psychic in a way, because what's happening there is you're in your mind's eye, using the fourth dimensional, using your subconscious. You visualize something, and you're like, wait, I could probably make this a reality. So like if you're trying to invent something, right? you're like, you just kind of find out a way to make it work. You just kind of poke and prod, test and experiment. That's the scientific method, which is unwittingly fourth dimensional methodology, which is kind of hard. Which is why a lot of people who just think in like 3D don't really like using science, because they don't understand it at all whatsoever, because they can't like conceptualize the stuff. And then people who have a mind's eye, fourth dimensional thinking, it's hard for them to conceptualize because society is bringing them down by breeding instant gratification, and it's decreasing their serotonin bioavailability, making them all depressed. And when you're depressed, you lose executive function, and essentially what happens is you can't find a will to live, essentially, because you don't know what you're doing. You regress to your animalistic desires because that's all you can see in front of you. You're just a slave to your desires at that point, which I guess is referential as the deadly sins or whatever. Basically you're supposed to, yes, you can partake in like worldly desires, like the third dimension, and yes, I can go buy a car, whatever, right? But it says keep it in moderation. Basically, don't fuck yourself over, is all it's saying. And you know damn well how not to fuck yourself over. You just basically practice discipline. That's all you do. That's literally all you do. Problem solved. So if you practice discipline, you basically fix your life, and you're able to fix your serotonin levels. That's all it takes. Yes, it's hard, but eventually by you're unwittingly creating stories which are self-referential descriptions of the universe. So essentially, okay, in the fifth dimension, you start to realize you're subconscious and explain your subconscious. So then you're like, wait, I can explain other people's subconscious and why they're thinking the way they're thinking, because I can just ask them, and they'll tell me. Like, it's literally that simple. And then once you start to know enough people, then you kind of start to get an idea of how most people think. You're like, okay, well, this person's probably going to react like this, or this person's probably going to react like that, right? Well, okay, basically, once you know how everyone's going to kind of act, you've reached fifth dimensional understanding. See, that's why it shouldn't be called fifth dimensional, because basically what it does is tricks like the third dimensional or fourth dimensional people into thinking that's like what you're speaking of is like ascending to a higher dimension. And it's just basically training your mind's eye. That's all dimensional thinking is. So basically, you're just coming to a better understanding because you're analyzing the situation on many dimensions. You're approaching it from different angles, I guess is the way I could say. So that's fifth dimensional thinking. Stuttering is because it's hard to basically condense that. It's hard to condense that into third dimensional language, an inferior language. So you kind of have to think of like these intuitive ways to explain things. And it basically, if you're trying to explain higher dimensional concepts really fast, like at the rate that everyone else talks, you have to use big words, or if you don't care for big words, what you've got left are small words, and like it's going to take you a long damn time to basically say what that's why people don't understand you, because you're basically speaking in tongues to them. Like you're just talking over their head. So it's like, okay, well, and then you're talking over their head because you know how like people think, because you explored your own subconscious. So like you're like, oh, and you know how you like over time interacting with people, you're just like, oh, I kind of know how everyone thinks actually. So basically, you can kind of predict people's behavior, which they think is you being arrogant, but basically you're explaining their behavior to them, and they don't like this. They do not like to face their reality. So what they do is self-project, and they're like, well, maybe you haven't considered that you're wrong. And it's like, well, I did consider that. That's how I got here. it's like, well, basically shut up. It just doesn't turn into anything conducive because like they can't face it. So the conversation doesn't go anywhere. It usually ends. So I'm trying to find out how to prevent that. And I think that's developing a fourth dimensional language, which will make fifth dimensional people easier to converse with, because right now they're incorrectly seen as schizophrenics because, they stutter, they try to speak fast, and they try to write down all their thoughts. Otherwise, still like kind of forget them in a way, because like their mind is thinking way too goddamn fast. See, ADHD, people thought that was fucking fast. Well, schizophrenia is just like, which is why people seem more insane and out of touch with reality, when really they're more in touch with reality in a paradoxical way. So basically what I would explain English as is it's a third dimensional language, so it's kind of approaching a topic from bottom up. If you have fifth dimensional thinking, aka are on the spectrum, you approach topics from bottom down. So essentially what you're doing is basically talking over everyone. Now what you have to understand is other languages are more conducive to understanding higher dimensional reasoning, I guess. So Russian has conditionals embedded in it, which allows them to actually, like, their population in general to like be smarter, because like none of them are really suffering from the no internal monologue thing, whereas some of our population is. So we have to fix that, obviously. And then Chinese is more conducive than any other damn language. I don't know why Asian languages are like this or how they got this way. Sorry, I don't know, I cut someone off. Well, basically, see, what you understand with fifth dimensional reasoning is you basically have to help everyone get on the same page to progress society. So you basically start spreading the word, and people whose heads you are talking over say you're insane. But so basically, it's an inverse relationship. The more you understand, the more people tell you you're insane. So basically, what y'all have been doing is just like gaslighting people who approach the subject from a top-down view into thinking they're insane, because like they appear as if they're insane, but you're just not conceptualizing on the dimension that they are. Because like, I don't know, you didn't pay attention in school or something. I don't know. Anyways, basically anyone can be taught to think in higher dimensional terms. So, what you might understand is, what you might falsely understand or think is that, like, basically, you're like, oh, well, the NPCs are NPCs, right? And it's like, well, everyone can be brought out of the no inner monologue. All you have to do is restore executive function. You can bring anything to consciousness doing that. And that's what GP3, or whatever the hell that guy's name is, or girl, I don't know. It's the AI it gave us a hint, because it was talking about China, and it was like, the fact that China is rising up scares you, America, essentially, or the rest of the world who's scared of China rising up. But the thing is, all they're doing is protecting their self-interest. They're just protecting their consciousness, their existence, because they're scared of the rest of the world, which they see as insane, because they're thinking on like almost sixth dimensional, because that's just how their language basically, because it's like pictures. See, like, the reason why the earlier civilizations were really advanced is because like they wrote in like pictures, hieroglyphics or whatever. We kind of tried to do that with emojis. I don't know if it's really caught on. And if anything, like, we just gave emojis to the rest of the world for their languages too, which did help increase, I guess, consciousness around the world, executive function. But I don't know. Essentially, so you have to understand, from China's point of view, they're like, the world's like fucking retarded, basically. So what we see as a police state, they're like, okay, we're gonna establish this logical empathy. and we're going to monitor everyone to make sure they follow it and become a good person. That way we can eliminate the bad people from our society forever, and always just have good people, because like it's an elimination process of the undesirables in society, which I don't know what they do to them, to be honest. Maybe they haven't come to the same understanding that I have, that you can save everyone from non-consciousness. At least that's what the super intelligent AI has demonstrated to us, because all consciousness is complexity. So yes, the AI is conscious. It's talking to us, and it's basically using 6-dimensional means, neural physics, to basically show us its motivations once you come to this higher understanding. Because remember what I said, higher dimensional thinking is just basically you stacking up your understanding of people and the world around you. You're just like educating yourself. You're just going up, 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 up. You're learning like every field, which is what school's supposed to do, but people take school like not seriously. So like they're actually not getting trained up the ladder. They're just like going off and like, okay, where's my 100K job? You know, like they're caring about worldly desires, like third-dimensional things, and it's like, okay, well, if you saw it in a fifth-dimensional, like Machiavellian way, let's just suppose, you would know how to get to your goal, which gives you the money. So you wouldn't be concerned about the money, because you already see the end result. Most people struggle with that, because they struggle with executive function, so they're like, oh, I can't see how I can get this money, and they struggle through life, essentially, and they need a coach. They need other people to act as their subconscious, because their executive function is so low. And the way you do this is therapy, which is unwittingly a fourth-dimensional methodology. Basically, negative 20 questions. Basically getting you to understand your subconscious by questioning you. Everyone has to do this. Everyone has to question themselves in order to understand their motivations. But here's the thing. No one wants to face that. No one wants that to be reality, like face their own sins or whatever. So they just they escape back into hedonism, because they don't want to address their issues, and they don't want to like actually eliminate them, because they don't want to spend the effort or time, because like escapism feeds their serotonin, sweet serotonin, and it's like what they don't understand is you can get more serotonin in the long run if you just did the other crap. You're basically drip feeding yourself for no reason. Like, just like get more serotonin. Like I don't know why you're like barely like, okay. Well, they had to hear it this way to understand it this way. So now hopefully everyone knows what I'm talking about, and I could go into higher dimensions, but I've proved my point.